Welcome, everybody. I am so happy today to be speaking to the co-author of The Cosmic Lens, Dr. Birgit Viertlböck. We spoke to her co-author, Mikhail Durin, recently about this paradigm-altering book that seeks to aim at no less than a comprehensive understanding of and healing of the meta-crisis and the most difficult interconnected difficulties of our world. And with Dr. B, as she has graciously agreed to be called for my forked American tongue, we're going to be looking at the depths of trauma and how trauma healing can truly heal all of us. Dr. B here is an expert in self-healing. She helps people to free themselves from their fears, their blocks, and their traumas in order to regain access to themselves and their self-healing powers. So she has a PhD in habilitation in veterinary medicine, and she's worked for over 17 years on the faculty for veterinary medicine in Munich in research and teaching. There she pursued basic research in the field of immunology and was awarded numerous prizes for this. And since 2019, she's been a naturopath, coach, and now works in human medicine in her private practice with all of her online methods as well. She lives in Munich with her 4 children. Dr. B, welcome to our conversation.
Hi, Michael. I'm very proud of being here and hope to fulfill your expectations, which make already filled so much about talking about this wonderful project we had, the Cosmic Lens.
I am sure you'll fulfill and exceed these expectations. You know, your co-author has spoken so highly of you in our conversation that we had. So I just had to speak to you as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, just for starters, like what inspired you to write The Cosmic Lens together, despite your different backgrounds and expertise?
Actually, the story how we met is very funny and I don't know, coincidental. So we found each other on social media. There's another word for that, and we felt so much resonance for each other. He was so interested in how I do trauma work, and he really digged into my website. And since he also knows German, he looked at all the different stuff I presented there and read the testimonials. And he approached me because he was keen on finding a trauma therapist for the part as an engineer, as an ecological engineer, he just was not educated to do that. He had some shamanic and of course lots of spiritual practice, and so we kind of felt into each other that this is a wonderful pairing, and that my part of kind of contributes to the book that with the part and fills up the parts he still needs for writing the whole book. So it wasn't, to be honest, not our project from the beginning. So the survey, when he started the survey, he wasn't even knowing me, and that's funny, we had this global connection. I'm sitting in Germany and he in the US, and we kind of and that made it so magical that although it was only online, the whole writing process, and we had these meetings, it was just like so heartful and so driven and so full of hope, and so that the whole project was just meant to be. Yeah. So that's how we found each other.
That's beautiful. You know, a lot of my life and vocation has been born out of just such online friendships and collaborations. And in Mick's case, we first knew each other in face-to-face community about 15 years ago through authentic relating and other sorts of things, but have stayed in touch since we have lived at different parts of North Carolina. And of course, he bounces back and forth around the world. So it doesn't surprise me that, you all were also able to, achieve such a practical, fruitful collaboration in this web that we have. And
yes,
I like to think of it as the upside of the internet. There are plenty of downsides, but this is, a beautiful capacity that our interconnectedness has.
Yes, I totally agree on that. And I think that this global interconnectedness has to be also be used for the next step, evolution and the next step solution of the world's turmoils.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
So, because if you think about, and I watched the video already, and I loved how you both focused on the experiences we had, that, all the traveling doesn't need to be so relevant anymore, and we could reduce all those coal dioxide, CO2,
Uh-huh.
by just making it much easier and the same connected, instead of just getting on planes and seeing people personally. And we had this chance to experience it, that it works. And I just love it that we keep that connectedness, for future, to have solutions. I really love that part of the interview of Mick and yours.
Thank you.
That this is already a part of the solution to reduce traveling.
Yeah.
And feel connectedness. Yeah.
I agree. And let's look at another element of healing. Why in the pages of the Cosmic Lens do you call personal and transgenerational trauma the biggest hurdle in healing, growing, and contributing to a better world?
It's, in my opinion, it's the biggest hurdle because people don't think that it is important, because we'll tend to live in an outside world. We tend to consume stuff which is outside of us, like the news, like global parameters, like, even the meadow in front of us is outside, and that we kind of focus on that, and that we don't think that our inner turmoil is as important, more important, most important field to look at when it comes to an overall connected healing. I think the reason is why people don't talk about it, or haven't talked about it for ages. Meanwhile, the new age is started to talk about it. How do you feel? How are you? The American culture is kind of, how are you feeling? And no one wants to know, and you always nod, and then everything is fine. And I kind of don't like that, dislike that.
Yeah.
So at least when I'm being asked how I'm doing, I'm really asking honestly, which kind of brings me into trouble sometimes. Anyhow, so I think it's a kind of a buried, hidden, unwanted, unseen layer in our society, which we don't want to present, so don't want to look at, want to hide. And that's why it's a hurdle, because if you don't see it, you kind of stumble over it, and then you kind of get this drawbacks, you get this kind of, how to say, walls in front of you, which you even cannot name where that it comes from. That something triggers you, something is kind of, the flow doesn't work. The flow is kind of a hip word for that. You step into like barriers, and all that is because you're unable to see what's blocking them. And of course it's hidden because it's sometimes so hurtful that our subconscious minds had to hide it to survive our childhood. So it's totally normal that attachment traumas, all those PTBS and all that stuff has to happen. But at some point, to really wake up, grow up into an adultness, into a manifesting human being, we need to really pinpoint that down and delete it from our system. Otherwise, there is no real progress in life towards.
Yeah. As you're speaking, and I want to get into this method of clearing or deleting trauma in a moment, but it suddenly occurred to me to ask an even more basic question of what is trauma? Because I feel like as a culture, we have gone through these interesting swings. We've gone from a time where we had no knowledge of or vocabulary of trauma at all. And now some people say we overuse trauma.
Yeah.
Everything that makes us uncomfortable is trauma. And I don't have a, the American phrase is I don't have a dog in that fight. Like I'm actually very openly curious. You might tell me right now, actually everything is trauma, and I would be open to that possibility, or you might have another understanding. So on a basic level, what are we speaking about when we're speaking about trauma?
There is a very wide range, and especially when you come from human medicines or from the one you school medicine, the trauma is really just the very, very painful parts. And the other, as you said, some people say that everything is a trauma. In my definition, trauma is everything which still is influencing our daily business, which could not be transformed, which could not be healed, which has not been seen. And so every negativity, so I try to call it negativities. So something which happened and caused an impact on our conscious and subconscious minds, on our way to react to situations, to react to people, to react to keep us away from our true inner meant to be state. So I'm more as you said, the more the abundant way of defining it. Because I think when you only take like this school medicine explanation, many people who are, and in this time I have more and more clients which are high sensitive persons, HSPs, and who didn't really suffer from real trauma, if I call it like real trauma. But as they are different in perception, so I always keep into account, what does this person feel about it? And that's my parameter. So how did that influence that person? And then I go really personal into the story and into the, because I want to make sure that this person feels safe and seen. And then in the end, it's not important what is the trauma. The importance is that we delete that, what keeps that person away from truly living a life of abundance, love, and purpose.
Yeah. I love your practical approach to it. It's, whatever it is that is negative, it's still influencing us in reactivity rather than proactivity of being able to live life on our own terms.
Yes.
So what is the rapid trauma clearing method that you advocate for to accelerate not only personal, but global healing?
It's called the deletion therapy or the deletion method. I patented it 5 years ago, and since then acquired many clients. So I'm close to 100 different people who are working with me in a one-on-one session. And the principle is that I'm coming, or I did a lot of had a lot of experience on a coaching kind of level, where you have like this onion style way of looking at things. So you kind of peel the onion, you work with the upper layer, and then the next layer and the next layer are coming. And I didn't like it at all, because I wanted to make my clients independent from a coach, from a therapist, and really connect them with I would say innate self-healing powers, and the one which we really deserve. So our inner therapist. So I found it very boring to have like this ongoing appointments with one person to now this is that problem that. So you step in that layers of the onion, and I just found it myself very boring and inefficient. And I always, I had triplets, or I still have triplets. They're now 14. And I tend to say that my second first name is efficiency, to explain why I invented, or designed a method which is very efficient, because I just like to make it very practical, very fast and sustainable. because I'm just bored easily. And so yeah, that's why I constructed the stuff I learned to one thing. And the basic concept is that we work with an emotional resume. So an emotional resume which kind of covers all the different stations in the life, and focus on overall patterns. So, because there is hardly any psychotherapist or any other therapist who really gets the whole story. And then it's sometimes difficult for that therapist to really see what else is connected with that pattern, to have the whole life kind of as a so it's like a story, it's like a play, it's like a Hollywood movie. So I'm watching my clients' Hollywood movies and step into their stories to really get their emotions, to get their feelings, and then guide them through those stations of life. And this, so there's many other aspects which we might go into today, but the aspect that it's just really covering the whole thing has not been there yet.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. It's funny, whenever I'm, even as a client, seeing a new therapist or coach, I'm like, oh man, how much do I catch you up on my story? What do I even include to give you a taste of the totality of me? And like, I had to turn on my inner editor to figure out, what makes the cutting room floor. And now you've, introduced a whole new paranoia for me that I'm actually boring my therapist as we go through the onion layers. So thank you for that. But
everyone is as bored as me now.
But yeah, so your deletion method sounds intriguing. I'm wondering, how is it different? I mean, you already hinted at some of the ways, but how is it different from traditional trauma therapies? And why do you believe that this is crucial for addressing, again, not only our personal healing, but global challenges?
I think the big difference is that it's not only touching personal trauma, but also transgenerational trauma back to, I would say, the Sesshaftigkeit. Oh my God, what's that word? I need to look it up. Just give me a second. Sedentariness.
Mm-hmm.
So like the nomads to the sedentarians is sedentariness. Do you get the word?
Yeah. So
Okay. So like 10,000 years ago.
Right, moving from like hunter-gatherers to sedentary agrarians, where we're just parked in place. I'm following.
And that's like the how to say, the goal I have to really go back to that kind of area with a very, very efficient and short third part of the whole session.
Mm-hmm.
And why is that important in my mind? And really changes the whole system of hierarchy, patriarchy, and the whole system, how the world functions, and it should change functioning towards a more, a less hierarchy. And because we need to heal that layers all through that 10,000-12,000 years, that fear works, that money works, that abundance is money, that there are minor and major people, that we need to really get that out of people's heads, that we are equal, that we are all living on the same planet, and that we are full of devotion and humility, modesty, and all these very, very important human resources need to be re-established. And that only works when we delete the bad ones we kind of inherited from all the wars, all the possessions, all the this is yours, this is mine. And this is, I think one of the big differences. And that's why we chose it to have, or why Mick chose that to be the trauma therapy in the book, because it not only concerns personal trauma, which is also resolving, like, I have, and the effects are just immediate, like the day after people working with me. the overall global effects are longer in, you know, we need to find people who also are working in the same field and be the same release from trauma to really change in long-term hierarchies and systems.
Yeah.
But that's the big difference. You know what I mean? Like, it's not only personal, it really goes into the depth of humanity, and to put one spiritual part to it at the end, it's a reconnection to our higher self. So like to a clean, brilliant, glowing higher self, which is then much more present in that human body you have.
Yeah.
So I sound like an ESO witch or something, but I'm not.
Yeah, what you're saying makes me think of turning a particular phrase on its head. There's a phrase that hurt people. And I think that what you're saying is like healed people or healing people begin healing people, and that it can have a sort of virtuous effect. And this might be an unfair question to pose only to you. Like, it probably goes to a lot of different practitioners, but I think about the promise as well as the shortcomings of the idea that personal healing can lead to systemic change. So, like, for instance, when I was fresh out of college, I was working in a chiropractor's office, this very passionate young chiropractor who genuinely, believed that, the power that created the body can heal the body. And if we cleared the body of what chiropractors call the subluxation that happens, the sort of nerve pressure in the spine, that it helps us think clearly, feel more clearly. And at the time, he was like, the problem with Saddam Hussein is he hasn't had a good chiropractic adjustment. Like, he really believed that if people had access to this healing modality, that it would make a better world. And I feel like we have similar passion amongst, like, say, psychedelic plant medicine. Some people from the 60s onward believe that if people were to experience a larger picture through these transcendent experiences with plant medicine or whatever, we would be better. And yet what we see now is that places like Burning Man and Silicon Valley in the United States are full of self-indulgent billionaires and multimillionaires who have done some therapy, have done the plant medicine, have incorporated corporate mindfulness practices in their corporations, but they're still exploiting people. They're still exploiting natural resources. There does seem to sometimes be a disconnect between personal healing or experiences of the transcendent.
Bypassing. It's just bypassing.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, tell me about that. What's the difference between bypassing and genuine healing?
Bypassing is, in my opinion, that you kind of get the gist, kind of think you have figured it out, but still feel lack and the opposite of abundance, which is that lack, or is that, yes. So you still feel ego, you still feel fears, you still feel emotions, which reduce your inner light. And that's why you still have to exploit people, and still have to have this millionaire's villa, and still have to pile up these amounts of money, because you still have this little ego or this big ego, which needs to be nourished by that system. And so these people bypass, they think they know, and they think they did it all. But like my favorite example is Keanu Reeves. I really adore him, that he is giving money. So he only keeps what he really needs for living. And is a very, I don't know, as far as I can believe social media, a very basic and how to say, he's talking to everyone, and we need people on that level again, on the human level.
Yeah.
And when they bypass, They think they found the solution, but they haven't. In there, I can see that from their, as you see it, from the behavior.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So there's a need for more than a surface level
Yes.
understanding of healing that gives our sort of unhealthy egoic structures, that leaves them intact. There's a need for a genuine upending of those security systems, perhaps particularly as the powerful seek to maintain them. And it sounds like you still have hope that something like a trauma deletion method could, in fact, bring actual transformation to even people who benefit from the system as it currently exists.
You mean that they benefit from? I think I'm not. I haven't pictured it all out. How the change, the global change, will look like.
Mhm.
I just know that it's a kind of network of people which start to work with each other, which start to inspire each other, which start to fuel energy to each other. So because we are social beings, so we need to have this connectedness and come up with ideas how to create new that's that's a very deep question, because honestly I don't know if we can save the planet. I
Mhm.
just don't know, and
Yeah.
I discussed about that a lot.
Yeah.
But if we find that connectedness, and if we find that hope, that we live life full of, as I said, modesty, connectedness, and love, there is hope that we can change it. And if
Yeah.
not, that love also helps us
Mhm.
for living the last days of our lives happily and connected. So, so I'm coming from the personal side. So my goal is that I can. So the meaning of life for me is living life. Living life. That's the meaning of life. Living it.
Mhm.
And not waiting for the next day or the next week or the next month. In the here and now, you can really live life. And if we have this fueled up energy and find people, I don't think, if it's then really, I'd say, if it doesn't work out, okay, worst case scenario, if it doesn't work out, I
Yeah.
think we just be like on the Titanic, that we kind of celebrate the last days of the earth, but
Mhm.
have hope, have this, not this small human mind fuck thing that death is something bad.
Yeah.
But since we have then lived life for the fullest, since we have lived in paradise, since we really be humble, and as I said, this is the basic, be in love, not like with elbows around the world. I
Mhm.
think that's a way to leave the planet, and in the planet will heal itself, herself,
Mhm.
at the end anyhow. So if we are eradicated, I wonder what the next experiment is, but I'm not afraid of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
I'm not afraid of it. And that's what I want to give to people, is this inner feeling that there is a bigger plan for my life, and that the life is very full, and that I can work on my purpose. I'm not waking up in depression. I'm just happily smiling at other people. And this is the meaning of life, and not accumulating lots of money, making a lot of pollution and all that. Yeah, it was a difficult question for me, because it's. I wonder when Mick is watching that, what he says about it. But he knows that I'm that. I'm, the Titanic one. I'm just not afraid of death. I would say.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I knew, from the outset, it's somewhat of an unfair question to pose solely to you. I think it's a question that a lot of us are asking these days. I am interested in your take, and I'm not disappointed in your take. It reminds me of another recent book release that a friend of mine wrote, Brian McLaren, called "Life After Doom," and
Mhm.
about taking a sober look at the crises that we're facing, and that maybe humanity doesn't pull out of this. I mean, we almost certainly won't pull out of it unchanged. At the very least, we're going to be radically transformed as a species by the climate crises and other crises that we have already put in motion. I don't think there's any coming back from that, but we still have a lot of responsibility in the sense of the ability to respond to the earth changes, to the social changes. And I agree with you that if we are as cleared from trauma as possible, then hopefully the repetitive stress injuries of our continued stress and turbulence in these times, won't have such a hold on us, won't so erode our ability to genuinely choose what our next response will be and what our next response will be. And so, yeah.
I think that the ease in life is increasing, and the peace in life is increasing, and that life is a game again. Like that's what I kind of so one of the last sentence of such a session is when you kind of get your chi back to yourself, is cleaned up chi, like your soul energy. The sentence is, as a creator of your own life, you can now start the game of life again. And then, as you know, in the cosmic lens, that being in this meta perspective, being in this spectator view of your personal life, it is much easier to face challenges, because it's like a game again, and not this hard excuse the word masculine patriarchic war kind of, you have to deal with it, you have to work through that, you have to, not it's easy, it's flowy, and it works, and I have many questions about, how do you know it works? I can't say the testimonials, the people who not testified like officially, but everyone who is replying to me say, wow, I just met a person by accident, and we did the connect. So like the frequencies, it's a kind of cleaning process of the frequency. So this frequency which is attracting people, and this you know what I mean? So it just works better, and it creates a field of frequency around us. And then things just start to fall in places. And it's not work anymore. And that's the cool thing. I haven't been in like such a long, at university, always having to learn stuff, to memorize stuff. I really was sick on that, about that. And now it's just intuitively. It's just like, yeah, you're guided. You're guided. You don't have to work hard. If you fulfill a few, I would say, universal laws, how things work, and then it's just a dance, and not a fight anymore.
It's such an intriguing possibility, and I just want to say to anyone that's tuning in that the deletion method is named in the pages of the Cosmic Lens, and also if you go to thecosmiclens.com, you can receive information about a course and a cohort that Mick and Dr. B are offering, which includes, correct me if I'm wrong, some one-on-one sessions with you, correct? Where
it includes the whole session, the whole so the program for the course, that was very, very important for the two of us, because it has to be a sustainable and a method which really the promise of it keeps the promises. That's the word, which keeps the promises which we make. That the whole method in total, as I do it normally with just normal people, is included in the course.
Okay.
There is nothing, not an inch less of the whole program in there.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So I imagine that will call to some of you who are watching. And so you should definitely check out thecosmiclens.com to see their beautifully designed course. Yeah, thank you. And so I'm curious, like, what role do you see intuition playing? Maybe this freed up energy that we have in decision making and problem solving for the challenges that we face.
I think the intuition is the best guide in the now. Intuition is there are science fiction films, movies around, with that, or that time doesn't exist, and that, or everything is taking place at the same time. And I kind of resonate with that. Also, our human body kind of follows time because it ages and all that stuff. So it has like two perspectives, but the intuition is the guide in the now. And the mind is kind of blocking intuition. So these kind of partners are fighting against each other. And so the more mind construct you have in your face about how life should work, the less your intuition is able to whisper to you. Okay. And the more trauma you have, the more kind of walls you had to build around your emotions, your intuition, this guide, the less it's talking to you. When it's freed, it's, I think, the easiest and most accessible and truest. Is that a word? Your inner guide who is without any ego, who is the one, and I try to explain also that there is a difference between gut feeling and intuition. The gut feeling can be also constructed by fear. That, I've been falling off a tree when I was 5, and now I'm afraid of heights. My gut feeling says I should not climb on trees again. This is fear constructed. The intuition is different. The intuition is kind of the original inner spiritual guide who got covered, who got hidden, buried. I'm sorry. Under that fear. And so listening to that voice is so important. And as we picked it out, depicted it in the book, one of the most common ways to listen to your intuition and is really to listen to your body signals. So like when you have like I don't know an itch in that, like you have a thought and you feel like a funny feeling in your stomach that tells you think about it, or it does work more when it's yes things. So when you agree to things very loud, because with the no things, it can also be that constructed gut feeling. So if you have a clear yes to things, follow it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So it is intuition, and it has to be a clarified intuition that is different than gut feelings that might be trauma. So what I'm hearing is that, doing something like the deletion method to clear can only refine and strengthen our intuition.
Yes.
And in the Cosmic Lens, you also touch on this concept of choosing wisely. Can you elaborate on how people can make better choices in an increasingly complex world?
Actually, it's along the same line. Is if you are not choosing out of triggers, out of attachments, oh my God, family attachments are one of the worst choices or ways of choosing, because if you think about responsibilities for your parents or responsibilities for your children, these are all attached So our system is, it's a codependency on that people or your partner. If you have a codependency, there is no wise choice choosing wisely possible. So how to choose wisely? Detach from all that people, having an eye level relationship to all that people. For example, with my parents, they are my biological parents. They are my friends, but I'm not devote. No, is it devote? Devote. So I'm not like obliged to anything anymore. I am the most important person in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And why is that important? I have 4 kids. I need to tell them that I'm the most important person in my life. When I don't tell them, how should they become the most important person in their lives if I'm not the role model for that? And all that is kind of if you have like a good connection, a good loving connection to yourself, it's the basis of choosing wisely. And it's sometimes necessary to detach from people who are toxic, poisonous, or dysfunctional to you.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one aspect of how to choose wisely, to make yourself independent of people who are influencing you. If it's just energetically independent, it's fine. It doesn't have to be like really personal, but on an energetic level or on a systemic level, and then it's again just just the intuition kicks in. This voice gets louder and louder and reassuring. So if you follow that, it's reassuring. It's coming back louder. So it's a kind of self-fulfilling process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Up leveling.
Yeah. Yeah. Refining our consciousness so that we can choose more and more wisely. Thank you. Yeah. Well, so, this book has been out for a few months now. It's certainly resonating with a lot of people. And I'm also curious if you've gotten any pushback, like specifically, how do you respond to skeptics who might dismiss some of the concepts that y'all explore as like too new age or unscientific?
Since the both of us are coming from science, the unscientific part is easy for me because I realized, and I don't know if you know Gerald Hüther, he's a German neurobiologist, a very famous one, who also very famous. And he was and I just heard an interview from him where he also said, I have been in that science world, and I myself realized that the solution to all that answers cannot be solved on a science level. So there is no scientific solution to that world because we are not a science-based world. There are miracles, there are wonders, there are phenomena which cannot be, at least now, solved with the measurements of science. So that kicked me out of that. Oh, then I'm wrong here. Then I don't have to do any science anymore. And it opened up the whole field of mystical, spiritual awakening. And so it's definitely not for people who are still, who need to still just take the pill and feel the relief, but universe is playing towards us. There are so many chronic diseases out there. There are so many things which cannot be solved from the science world that, of course, these people at the end, if they don't die or just give up at the end, they're seeking for solutions which are including all the principles from the world, how it works. And so the skepticists, they have experienced that unknown part already. And if not, it's not their book. And since Mick and I and people who who love the book are full of trust, like this universal trust. If not everyone has to like the book, it's coming to the people who are important. It's coming to the people who are open for it. Being a healer, one sentence was very important for me. I cannot heal everyone because not everyone wants to be healed. And that kind of relief brought a big relief. And it's the same with the book. If there are criticisms about that, yeah, just go ahead. It's coming to the people who really appreciate it, who like it, who then be the manifestors of the new next level life. We all like.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that part of what you are touching on here is even the difference between science, like the process of science, and the scientific method, which relies on observation and the repeatability of experiment, versus scientism, which can also often be a set of dogmas that is based on the previous findings of a previous era of scientists that says it will be impossible to find different results than what we have found in past generations. It kind of reminds me of how the occult journalist Mitch Horowitz or the renegade scientist Rupert Sheldrake, they talk about how there actually is promising research in parapsychology, in panpsychism, the study of the interrelatedness of consciousness, that does yield tentative results.
But do we really need to know? That's the question. And that was working me up. Like, do we really need to know to the last extent? Because this is the mind fuck, This is the mind who's keeping us busy. What about, this is the fight mode. I love the dance mode, the one which kind of you step out of the door and feel you don't have to have this proofs of life anymore. Or the scientific proofs. So I really know what you mean, but I want to bring in that thought of, do we really need to know? Is that the purpose of life, that we find out how it works?
Yeah, I hear that. I mean, I love many of the things that the scientific method has brought into our modern world, many of the technologies, many of the innovations. They're real gifts to that mindset. But I'm also with you that sometimes we just need to dance. We just need to go away. And, we don't have to check every box. So, that also makes sense to me. Well, I really appreciate your time. Just like as we're wrapping up here, I'm curious, now that you have co-authored this book, you have put this body of work into the world, you're continuing to do client work, you're continuing to, speak at conferences and events. What gives you the most hope for humanity's ability to address these complex changes, these meta crises in the world today?
First, so it's like I follow my path. I follow my path, and I know that I really work in my purpose, and that I'm of service for the whole planet. So why do I have hope? Because I offer methods. And I teach that methods, by the way. So it's not like I'm the only one who is doing that. I have trainees. I have an academy. I do that as a charity in my charity project in Africa. So I really spread that to the world. And I don't know how fast that is, but this is my kind of contribution to that hope, the sparkle of hope. Did I get the question right?
I believe it did. You have this trust, you have this hope. As you said earlier, you can't heal everyone, but you are passionate about efficiency, hence the deletion method. And at the same time, it sounds like you're just really stewarding what has been given you, and you're not going to sweat what else, is out there. And I think that that's really inspiring for any of us who either are seeking healing or are desiring to be a healer and a catalyst in the world. So, Dr. Birgit, thank you so much for your time today. If you're watching this, you can go to thecosmiclens.com to continue to connect with her work, with her and her co-author, Mick, and just this beautiful paradigm shifting offering that they have here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Michael, for giving Mick the opportunity to talk about the book, that you really are a fan of the book, and that you are helping us to spread that idea with Planet. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.